Good evening and welcome to tonight's public forum. This evening, we're featuring three candidates that are running for the city council for two vacant seats. So you'll be meeting them momentarily rather. But right now, I'd like to say that this event is being brought to you by the Orinda Association and the League of Women Voters. Tonight, the moderator will be the League of Women Voters, and we have a representative, Paul Dirksen, who will be here asking questions of the candidates. Now, you've all been given a index card, so if you have a question that you want to ask tonight, please fill out the card and hand it over to either somebody from the OA or someone from the League, and they'll bring it over here to the front. In addition to that, there were a number of questions that were sent to the Orinda Association website, and those questions have been turned over to the League representative. I'd like to take a few minutes to thank the city of Orinda, especially the Parks and Rec Department, for assisting us in putting this event together. And I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce to you the board members of the Orinda Association. We have here with us tonight Chris Laces Davis. She's our co-president. Wait, Chris. We have Alex Drexel, our vice president, in the back. Eloise Sotelo, our secretary, in the back. We also have here Kathy Cordova, who is also the executive editor of the Orinda News. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you all for joining us this evening. The League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley is co-host of this candidate forum with the Orinda Association. The purpose of this forum is to present the community with the candidates who are running for the City of Orinda Council. These are at-large seats, 3 candidates for 2 open seats. I'm too tall. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidates or political parties. The League is here as part of its key mission to educate and inform voters in a space free from bias. Additionally, I do not live in this district, therefore I will not be voting in this contest. The Orinda Association is recording this entire forum, and it will be posted to the League of Women Voters YouTube page, Contra Costa Television, and on the Orinda Association video page on YouTube at handle @Orinda Association Videos. Prior to the start of this forum, the candidates drew random numbers to determine the opening order of speaking. Closing statements will be in reverse order. I've also asked them to be seated in the order of the numbers selected. So 1, 2, 3. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. We have 2 volunteer timers who are sitting right in the front, Ashley Coates and Melanie Spear, and they will raise a 15-second warning card when there's about 15 seconds left. And they will raise the red card with stop. And, you know, I hope that you can just kind of finish up your thought. I try not to stop you, but, you know, if you keep going, I will. But personal comments about opposing candidates are not permitted. Any statements about opposing candidates must be verifiable in the public record of votes, public statements, contributors, contributions, etc. Each candidate is given the opportunity for 2 one-minute rebuttals during the program. Candidates must limit their rebuttal statements to correcting any mis- or disinformation from a prior speaker. And I'll have some discretion in terms of how that works, that we're not going too long over. A few reminders to our audience. If you have a question for the candidates, please write it on one of the 3x5 index cards that are being I can hear myself echo. All right. And give it to one of our volunteers. Juliana will be collecting cards, and she'll be working with Anne up here to sort the questions. We're just trying to make sure that, similar questions are synthesized on the same topic. All candidates will be asked to reply to each questions. So any questions that you submit that are directed to any particular candidate will either not be asked, or they will be rephrased in a way that all the candidates can answer that question. Since the forum is being recorded, we ask that you please silence your phones. Out of respect for the hard work that went into providing this forum and to ensure that there is no improper use of the forum content, we ask that you do not film or record tonight's program. We also ask that you refrain from cheers and applause for statements in order to preserve the valuable minutes to the hearing of candidates' comments. And so let me start by introducing the candidates. And after I've announced all three of them, I'll ask for a big round of applause for the candidates, and then I'll do similar at the end. So we will have Cara Hoxie, Darlene Gee, and Candace Evans. Gee, I'm sorry. See, I tried to do that, but
That's okay.
So each candidate will have about a minute and a half for opening statements, and we'll begin with Ms. Hoxie.
Great. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the Orinda Association and the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity to respond to questions from our community and to listen to one another. My name is Cara Hoxie. I have very deep roots in Orinda. My mom taught school at the Orinda Union School in 1959. I attended Orinda schools and went on to graduate from Smith College and Cornell Law School. After law school, I returned to San Francisco to begin my legal career. After my husband and I got married, I left the practice of law and went to become the president of a large nonprofit organization serving seniors and adults with disabilities that is now called Choice in Aging. When I started at the nonprofit, it was months away from bankruptcy, but I was able to save the organization and its services to over 1,200 frail seniors a year in Contra Costa County. After we had our first son, we bought our home in Orinda. After the third son, it became apparent that it was time for me to stay home and raise my family. Like many of you, I volunteered in their classrooms, in the library, and eventually I began raising money for the Educational Foundation of Orinda. I served as the president of the EFO for 3 years and then decided in 2016 to run for the Orinda Union School Board of Trustees. I am proud of my service on the school board. I have also learned a lot about how government organizations function, how to bring the right people to the table to get things done, and how to ask the right questions to set goals and policy so that we can be proactive and not reactive. We will discuss tonight many important issues facing Orinda, and none of us have all the answers. I commit to each of you to listen, to ask the hard questions, and to be responsive to you and the citizens of Orinda. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gee.
Good evening, everyone. I too want to thank the Orinda Association and the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity tonight. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to serve Orinda on the City Council for the last 9 years, including being the mayor this year. I'm proud of what I've accomplished and contributed to Orinda, and I'm running for a third term to be able to continue providing my experience and expertise in keeping Orinda a great place to live. I believe my experience is especially important right now. Next Monday, we welcome our new city manager. We have a new police chief that's been with us for exactly 1 week. We have a new planning director who has been with us for 3 months. And in January, we will meet a new fire chief from MOFD. Change is great. It provides great opportunities and new thoughts, but I believe there's an important reason why continuity is going to be incredibly important this year. I myself am a civil engineer by background. I have a BS from University of Illinois in civil engineering, and I have an MBA from UC Berkeley. I've lived in Orinda for 35 years with my husband, Dennis. We raised our family here. We've had many of the great family experiences that many of you have enjoyed. And in fact, my son and daughter-in-law moved back to Orinda just recently. Like all cities, Orinda faces challenges, and I look forward tonight to answering questions about going forward with those challenges.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you, and hello and good evening. I would like to express my gratitude to the League of Women Voters and to the Orinda Association for organizing this candidate, and thank you to everyone for coming here. I am Candace, and I'm a proud Orindan and a resident for many years. I love our community. I am a woman of color, clearly, and LGBTQ. Originally from Greenville, South Carolina, being raised in a highly respected and loving and political home, leaving me to understand how Orinda is ran very well. My current and I work position is a legislative recorder for the city of Oakland. I am a proud owner of Clean Natural Foods Market. I believe health is wealth, period. America's Garden Center, we sell all natural products. And where my main clients is Lockheed Martin, Good Earth Natural Food Stores in Marin County, and Dosner Farms. I'm a board member, secretary, and treasurer for the Advisory Council on Aging. I have been serving for Orinda for 6 years for the county on the board, advocating for all the elderly in Orinda and the diversity and inclusivity, including the legislation for Orinda. I hold a very important seat for the Master Plan on Aging and working with Contra Costa County and EHSD to RFP viewer and to judge the RFPs that are currently, as we know today. I was a campaign manager for Anthony Perry in Los Angeles for District 35 and Senate seat, cities like Inglewood, LA, and Long Beach. I have a degree in creative directing, Paramount Studios, Sony, Local 47, and I was creative director of head for festival properties in Kaka'aku, Hawaii, and developing that development. As you can
Thank
know,
you.
thank you.
Okay, so for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be asking questions. None of the candidates have seen the questions before this forum. And I'm kind of using a grid to mix it up. So please stay alert because I'm not going to use the same rotation every time. You'll have 1 minute to answer the question. And when we get close to like 45 minutes or so, I will come up with the final question, and then we'll have closing statements. So the first question goes to Ms. Gee, and the question is, every city in California has to comply with the state housing mandate. To that end, Orinda developed the Plan Orinda project. One component is the housing element, which was approved and adopted last year. Another part is the Downtown Precise Plan. What are your thoughts on the DPP, and would you re-adopt the DPP after the environmental impact report revision process is completed? And what are your thoughts to bring that change to downtown Orinda?
Okay, that's a lot for 1 minute, but I'm gonna give it a try. At the time that the city converged all of the processes, we had already started our downtown precise plan as something that the city wanted to undertake. As many of you know, we are obligated to meet the state housing element requirements, and we decided that it was in our best interest to merge the environmental process for both of those elements together, along with our safety element for our general plan. In doing so, we brought all of that together. As many of you know, we were, after the fact, sued over some issues associated with the environmental document that supported all of that, and we are continuing to deal with that right now. I do support having our downtown precise plan. I do believe that we have got to comply with our housing element. It is very, very complicated to explain all of the differences between the two. I can't do it in 15 seconds, but I can tell you that I continue to be supportive of looking at opportunities in the downtown.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Thank you. As a member of the OSEE that was part of the lawsuit for the downtown precise plan. I do support the plan. I think that Orinda has to move forward with diversity, inclusivity. I love what Orinda has done since I moved there. It has moved forward so tremendously. So with that being stated, I will state that my main concern with the plan was to properly address the safety concerns for fire evacuation. Fire is very serious to me. Protecting families is important. Orinda is majority elderly, and to think that people can't get out of their homes alive and the elderly are not able to get to safety is something that I personally cannot live with. So having an analysis being done and properly brought up is super important. My main goal is not to go against it, but to work with the OSCC and work with the new mayor and work with our council members to come together and solve this problem. And like G said, it's a lot to be entailed, but I look forward to tackling that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hoxie.
Orinda's facing competing interests, the interest of revitalizing our downtown, of providing housing, and of keeping our existing families safe. And we need to take the interests of all Orindans into account. We need to take evacuation seriously. We need to implement with fidelity the judge's ruling so that we can actually see what the impacts of the projected additional houses would be on Orinda. And we need to come up with creative solutions to address all of those competing interests. It's not something that is going to be easy to do. It will take a lot of thought and conversation, but it's one that we need to have. And I feel that we are in a good position. Downtown needs to be revitalized. We need to do work. It's tired. And we need to provide more affordable housing in Orinda, but we need to do it in a way that takes into account the residents and citizens who are already here and make sure that the evacuation routes for everybody are adequate. So there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. The third element of Plan Orinda is the safety element. There were some recent examples of an accident on 24 where traffic backed up onto Orinda streets. There's growing dangers of wildfires. What are your thoughts on protecting Orinda residents from these hazards? And Ms. Evans first.
Thank you for that moment. It is important to protect our Orinda residents and first to do a traffic analysis to find out where and the wildfire analysis. In Marin County, they are very well prepared to that. And I think that emerging with other council members in other cities would help the process move along just as well. My thoughts on Orinda, as well as Caltrans and any other buildings that are being built according to the city and the mandates. I think that's very important as well to consider that wildfire and getting families out in advance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gee.
There is an awful lot associated with the concept of evacuation and safety here in Orinda. In fact, I would say there are three major elements, and the first being we have every right and every need to have our professional entities such as the fire district and the city well prepared to handle an emergency. We have every a right to expect that all of our professionals in the area are prepared. However, there is absolutely, and I can tell you this authoritatively with my expertise professionally, there is no model in the world that can capture and evaluate the actions of over 1,000, thousands and thousands of people simultaneously. Modeling is not the answer. The answer is that everyone in this community takes seriously the multitude of information you have available to you to be prepared, to be signed up for our warning systems, to know what you are going to do if there is truly an emergency. It's incredibly important.
Thank you, Ms. Hoxie.
There's a lot of work to be done. When I started on the school board, I met with the fire chief, and he told us that the students at Sleepy Hollow Elementary did not have a building that was adequate in case of a wildfire. So we passed 2 bonds thanks to the general generosity of our community, and we built a new multipurpose room at Sleepy Hollow, which is wonderful. It's fire safe. It will house the entire student staff community. The problem is, we all know if there's contraflow and the parents of students at Sleepy Hollow were told to not go to that school site, but to stay home and their children will be safe and the fire truck will protect them. Every SUV in Orinda is going to be on Washington Lane trying to get to their children at school. So we need to bring different organizations together. And I was able to get the fire district, the city, thanks to Mayor Gee, and the school district to actually sit down together and talk about evacuation and what we need to do. And we came up with a plan to have buses on those PSPS days that will be stationed at Sleepy Hollow to get those kids out so that we will not cause gridlock in Sleepy Hollow and everyone will be able to get out. We need to think creatively and we need to take into account how human beings behave. We can't just put things down on paper. We have to think about what people will actually do.
Thank you. So I know those first two questions had a lot in them and it was hard to get everything in 1 minute. So hopefully the next question will be a little easier. And so the question is, describe your involvement in the Orinda community and how that involvement makes you qualified to be elected to city council. And we go to Ms. Hoxie first.
As most of you know, I'm currently president of the school board. I've served on the school board for the last 8 years. During COVID, I was the president of the school board who had to shut schools. I was also the president of the school board who helped our schools reopen first in Contra Costa County. We need to work together in our community to solve problems, and that's what I am good at doing. I drive for seniors around town. I care about every single member of our community. I'm concerned that our seniors who are living alone would be trapped in their houses in the case of an evacuation. I feel like we all need to think more globally about what it means to be a community. I think it's very difficult when neighbors are fighting against neighbors. We all need to come together and say, we're one community. What can we do to make our community safer? I am capable of bringing people from different groups together and have those hard conversations. That's what I'm particularly good at. I understand Orinda. I understand that we all want to see Orinda be its best self, to be improved. We don't want to see empty buildings in downtown Orinda. We want to have a place where we all call home, where everyone feels like this is their community, and I'm here to work towards that.
Thank you, Ms. Gee.
Well, hopefully most of you realize that I'm the current mayor of Orinda. As I said, had the privilege of serving on the council for 9 years. Prior to that, I spent 5 years working on the Citizens Infrastructure Oversight Commission. And I do hope that my involvement in the infrastructure in the community, I know has always been well seen by the residents. If your street used to be broken up and crumbling and is now in much better shape, I would like to say that I had a part in that, that I'm very proud of. Infrastructure is my professional life, and so I've been able to contribute to it enormously here in Orinda. As I mentioned earlier, I am a very long-term resident. I've participated in many of the organizations, raised my kids through the schools, volunteered for everything that many of you have volunteered for over the years. I was the president of the Orinda Junior Women's Club for quite some time. And I am just very confident that my commitment here in Orinda will continue to serve the citizens well.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you. As the chair of the Planning Commission for the ACOA, and having a valuable role in the Master Plan on Aging for the representative for Orinda, the board member for Meals on Wheels, the Contra Costa County, serving Orinda elders, even at my age as a young woman, and studying the standpoint for more young women who will move to Orinda, as well as those and your kids who will also have a hand in helping the aging as we get their age as well. My position for festival properties, developing and having a hand at Kaka'ako, Hawaii Community and District. I am proud that I was able to do that at a young age. That set forth to understand how a city is being designed, implemented, and what infrastructures need to happen. That is a thriving community till today. At the larger companies for Sony, Paramount Studios, for some of you who watch movies, that takes a large production and a lot of leadership. My position well with the city of Oakland. There's new issues every day with the city of Oakland. New issues, new clients, new residents, And we have to be able to be prepared for someone who understands that moving forward.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Next question. The city of Orinda has actually seen one of the highest rates of cancellations and non-renewals in the state with regards to insurance. So what are your thoughts on how to contribute to the issues related to those insurance cancellations, the associated wildfire prevention and other possible concerns about evacuations? And we'll go to Ms. Evans first.
Thank you. I plan to collaborate with the Orinda Moraga Fire District to update enhanced key elements in the Safer Orinda, particularly evaluation plans. I do agree that you have to put and implement, but you can't just use social media. Most of the elderlies that I've dealt with and I've dealt with over the past 6 years, and I was raised by my grandparents, social media online is not their forte. As a council member, you have to get out in the streets and actually walk door to door, which I'm willing to do. Our youth put our youth in political acts, something that's age appropriate, and allow them to meet other residents to inform them as well regarding the insurance. Our fire fuel reduction incentive pilot program needs to be permanent, expand Clipper service, apply the state and federal grants. They will help our city keep our city safe in the zone, are making us appealing to insurance companies so that we do not have any issues with the residents being dropped from our insurance plan, working with the new mayor, and the follow-up with the insurance commissioner, Laura, to provide fire, staying on top of it. Consistently, consistent. Vacation time is over. We must do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoxie.
Thank you. I just heard recently that Insurance Commissioner Lara is going to allow information regarding fire breaks, home hardening, et cetera, to be used by the insurance companies in the modeling of coming up with their rate schedules and determinations as to what homeowners to drop and keep. However, that's not going to happen quickly enough for us here in Orinda. Many of us have already lost our insurance and more to come, right? So really in Orinda, what we can do is protect ourselves, to make our homes as safe as possible, to do what we can to harden our homes, to do what we can to clear the debris and brush. But the fact of the matter is many of us are going to be on the FAIR plan until this is resolved. All the advocacy in the world, it's going to take time. I think what we need is an actual free market in insurance, but we don't have that yet. So in the meantime, it's going to be a difficult thing for Orinda and for our homeowners. And we need to work as best we can to share our points of view with the state and help them understand what they need to do to help us.
Thank you. Ms. Gee.
I was proud to be one of the first elected officials in Contra Costa County to raise the alarm bell when all of the cancellations this year started happening. Many of you know that I helped organize having the insurance commissioner's office appear here for a town hall. To me, there are only two things that are really going to impact this situation, since we all know that the major control lies at the state level and the insurance commissioner's office. The two things that we can do are, one, to work with the fire district and all of the best optimization that we can in terms of how people are maintaining their property, the home hardening, and everything that we can do working with MOFD to ensure that the activities that we're undertaking for fire protection are actually meaningful to the insurance companies. And we are working on that. We have a special meeting October 21st that many of you may be interested in. That's a joint meeting with all three agencies. And also advocacy. We have got to keep at it with the state level. I recently helped hire Townsend Public Affairs to help with the advocacy for the city.
Thank you. Let's see. Next question is, what do you consider the three key issues facing Orinda, or what would be your three top priorities if you were elected to the city council? And we start with Ms. Hoxie first.
I think the work that Mayor Gee has started regarding private roads and drainage is super important. We have a very odd system here in Orinda, but in order to really understand, we need to have the study done and get our arms around the whole magnitude of that problem. So I'd like to see us figure out how to move forward in a way that's not putting neighbors against neighbors and is not creating the animosity that we've seen in the past, and also is protecting people's homes and properties. I feel like we could work hard. There are little things we could do to make Orinda more walkable, to make it a nicer community for all of us. And I really think we should do those things while we can. And I think that the housing element and resolving the controversies and the conflicts around the housing element and trying to get some revitalization going in downtown Orinda is incredibly important. We need some commerce. There's not much going on, and it could become, it's such a beautiful place. So I'm hopeful that I can work on improving all those issues.
Thank you. Ms. Evans.
Thank you. My key elements of focus point is one as well is the downtown precise plan. I love initially when I moved to Orinda, that's what captured me, the old town feeling of from my hometown, Greenville, South Carolina. I do love, as a young woman, I do love the hustle and bustle, but I like in many young families, Gen X, we love coming home and raising our families. So to see the downtown thrive and see the more businesses and see the kids be out, that's very important. It's important to anyone my age and older. I would like to focus as well on MCE, that's renewable energy. Orinda is the only city in Contra Costa that has not adopted this. This is super important. I've met multiple elderly on my street who are struggling with just funds to pay their bills. This is one of the key elements we can help save them on energy as well on finances and help them provide for the rest of their retirement and their life. I will also like to focus on the private roads. That's important. Private roads is a road for evacuation. We must allow the private roads to make sure they're up to date and they can get out in a fire as well as the public roads, and we're not causing an influx of situations.
Ms. Gee.
I would say my top three areas, and they're all overlain with fiscal responsibility for the city. The city of Orinda has been very well run. I care about that a lot, and that is going to be a part of everything. But I would say it's wildfire evacuation and homeowners insurance. It's long-term infrastructure, the ability to fund it, the ability to have solutions that are going to work for the whole community so that we can continue to have long-term sustainable funding, which has to primarily be done locally. And third is a resolution to our housing element, our downtown planning, and the issues that are associated with that. They're very complex, but I know that it is incredibly important that the city maintain what we're required to do with the state and to solve it in the context of what also works for our community here in Orinda.
Thank you. Let's see, a little follow-up on the infrastructure that some of you had mentioned. Question that is being asked is that approximately 20% of Orinda roads are designated as private. What actions would you recommend in reconciling Orinda's private versus public roads issues, including storm drains and road maintenance? And we go to Ms. Gee first.
All right, that's a very big topic, can't possibly be discussed in a minute, but one thing that is very important to remember is that the storm drainage elements are very separate from the pavement elements. This town has 27 miles of privately maintained drainage. Think about that. If you live on a public street and you're comfortable and happy that that everything is being well maintained by the city, the people around you, the people behind you, the people down the street from you may not be maintaining infrastructure. Recently, we have advocated, and the city is in the process of doing an RFP to try to map all of our infrastructure so that at least our public works people know where everything is. There are a lot of issues then to take a look at potentially maintaining it. On the road side, it's more a matter of evaluating what's there and what would it take to help find solutions that will allow everyone in this community to continue to want to vote and support for long-term infrastructure funding. That's what's important, is the idea that it all has to come together for funding.
Thank you. Ms. Evans.
Yes, so some of our private roads are used by public roads as well, obviously. And to help with evacuation and planning responses is very important. And regarding private roads, it is I have to agree, it's a very extensive subject. We are dealing with that as well in the city of Oakland, and that's something every city in a high fire area is dealing with. So regarding Orinda's for my parte, the public roads and their condition and the maintenance of it is very super important, and it takes funding for that. The poorly maintained private roads and the emergency evacuation, whether residents live on the public roads or private roads in Orinda, they deserve to be evacuated safely as well. Coming to terms with how we would do that is complicated, but it's doable. There are cities that are doing this right now that we do need to draw up an extra measure. In Marin County, the property owners choose their funding mechanisms. That has been effective for them. They are top end, and I feel like that's something that Orinda can do and will do. And that is something that the city of Oakland, our neighbor, is adopting right now. Why not just work with the grade instead of working against the grade?
Thank you. Ms. Hoxie?
As Mayor Gee said, the drainage and water issues are separate from the road issues. And frankly, the drainage and water issues affect all of us. Water runs down, it doesn't stop for anybody. And having drainage and culverts that get blocked or not maintained properly can have a very detrimental effect on the downhill neighbors. So I'm very appreciative of Mayor Gee's efforts to get this commission going, to survey the 27 miles of drains and to really understand what condition they're in, what needs to be done, what steps need to be taken, and where we're going to find the money to do it. Private roads are not all created the same. There are many different types of private roads. I live on a private road. It's a long, narrow road. It has a cul-de-sac at the end. Not many people come down. Some private roads are through streets. Some private roads are part of developments. I think we need to figure out pilot programs to start dealing with the most difficult situations we have, the private roads that are through streets, the private roads that are in terrible disrepair, and work towards the other situations. We're not going to be able to do it all at once.
Thank you. Different type of question. Many cities around Orinda have approved MCE as an energy alternative to PG&E. Orinda hasn't. What are your thoughts on this possibility? And we'll start with Ms. Hoxie first.
Thank you. There's lots to learn about MCE. It is a conglomerate that takes and buys power and resells it. It provides green power mainly to customers, and its prices fluctuate based on the power it can buy. We have been with PG&E for many years, obviously people want to have this alternative power source, but we need to understand what that means. What happens if we have a situation where the power markets change dramatically and they can't buy power? What will happen to all of our homes? How do we get out of the situation if it doesn't work? There's a lot to learn about it. And one of the wonderful things about being new to any organization is that you can ask the difficult questions. It's not just to say, oh, green power is wonderful, because green power is wonderful. And PG&E also provides a lot of green power. It's really to understand what it means to be part of that conglomerate where you have one seat at the table amongst 27 other organizations, and you have to see if they're actually serving the needs of Orinda. So I'm open to looking at it. I'm open to finding out about it. And I don't have an answer today of which way we should go with it.
Thank you. Ms. Gee.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts and an understanding of MCE, but I'm going to give the moderator a lot of time back here because I have continuously recused myself from this issue anytime it has appeared in Orinda, and I am going to do so now, and I'm going to continue to do so in the future. My husband is retired from PG&E. Some of you know that. And so consequently, anything I have to say about it could be considered potentially a conflict of interest. So I maintain my neutrality in regard to this topic.
Thank you. Ms. Evans.
Thank you. So for those who don't know, MCE is clean renewable energy. Yes. This is something that we dealt with in Kaka'ako, Hawaii. And I want to bring that forward on explaining how MCE is great for Orinda. The electricity is a renewable source, and it's by the solar, wind, and thermal. So the geothermal part collects to the electricity, and that's how you're able to save money on your power. The Contra Costa County has not only offered this information to every city and the city electives to come and learn more about it, but there are a lot of flyers out there that are offering so much information that it's almost impossible not to understand how it works. Moving forward, Orinda's median age is 49 years old, placing every household in the aging percentile. Without the MCE, electricity is going up, fire hazards. Adopting MCE is not only helping with fire hazards, it's helping those save money. The more you save, the more you're able to provide for your families. And that's so important. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, a little bit of a long question. This was asked about 27 years ago. The Orinda City Council asked the residents to form a new agency, the MOFD, to provide fire protection and emergency medical services. The council members at the time told that the new agency would use Orinda property taxes to fund this agency exclusively for Orinda to maximize safety in Orinda. It is now claimed that millions of dollars a year of these taxes are being used outside of Orinda, while the threat by wildfire, possibly extreme, remains, threatening Orinda's safety. What are your thoughts on addressing this possible issue? And let's see, we go to Ms. Evans first.
Can you please state the question again?
I knew I was going to get myself in trouble. I'd seen another variation of the question, so that's why I wanted to make sure I got it in. 27 years ago, the Moraga-Orinda Fire District was established to provide fire protection and emergency medical services. The council members told the voters that the new agency would use Orinda property taxes to fund this agency exclusively for Orinda. Now, there's claims being made that millions of dollars a year of these taxes are being used outside of Orinda or outside of the Moraga-Orinda Fire District. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Thank you. Now I do understand. Thank you. Moving forward, this question was addressed to me not only recently, but 3 years ago. I discovered that that was part of the issue. Some of my residents on my street were upset that they felt that the money was being used towards Moraga area instead of Orinda. I do feel like Orinda is a high fire area zone. And so predominantly in order for you to upkeep that fire, which is storm drains and fire prevention, the overhead cost is obviously going to exceed what most don't know. I feel that there is a gap in between educating the Orinda residents and how that is formed. I do support the council members and the current mayor right now regarding how that's being used for various reasons. I do feel like the issue was that most people do not understand that the overkeep, just like in any other city, the upkeep of of a house costs more than the actual house itself. And so that is the issue with Orinda, is the upkeep for where the money is going with MOFD. And I do feel like residents, thank you.
Ms. Hoxie.
So the fallacy is in the question. The council members told voters. It doesn't matter what the council members told voters. What's important is what the ballot measure said that the people of Orinda voted on to form the MOFD. The language on how the money is divided between Orinda and Moraga is not specified in that ballot language. Therefore, it is up to the MOFD board how they spend their resources. The city has regular 2x2 meetings with the MOFD board and works closely with them on the safety of both Orinda and, of course, Moraga. The fire insurance agents and companies have told us that the biggest danger is in North Orinda. That's why all of us in North Orinda are being canceled. So I would argue that we need to spend more money in North Orinda. But I don't think it's because the money is being misspent other places. I think that it's really our job to work with the MOFD board to make our concerns heard so that they more equitably use the funds to protect Orinda. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gee.
This question or this idea that somehow Orinda pays more and doesn't get the total value is, I agree, just a fallacy of how this was all structured. First of all, when MOFD came into existence, the tax rates that were allocated to it were the tax rates that were already being paid by Orinda and Moraga to the county at the time. They were all restructured for the new organization. And quite frankly, MOFD cannot run the district by trying to keep track of every, thing that they do in Moraga versus they do in Orinda. As many of you have heard our fire chief say, he runs the Moraga Orinda Fire District. It is a combined unit and it has to be run for the benefit of both communities. How that's done is at the direction of the board of directors and the priorities that they set. But this idea that you could split the money in a way that can be divided up is just silly. And the alternative, or even making that happen, would require dissolving the district and starting again. I don't think that's a good idea.
Thank you. So now we'll get to our final question, and then we'll have some concluding remarks. So final question is related to crime. Questioner asks, from the local media reports, it appears that Orinda crime is trending upwards. As a council member, how would you address this? What are your thoughts on this? And we'll go to Ms. Gee first.
I know that every time something happens in the community that's a crime or unpleasant or scary, is very hard for our residents to take. I feel the same way. The reality is crime is not going up in Orinda. The actual statistics as provided by our police chief this year, it actually is going down. Every category of things that we worry about, such as property crime, car theft, et cetera, is going down. The reality is I am a huge proponent of technology to help our police force, and that has helped a lot. It's helped solve a lot of crimes. I'm a big supporter of all the cameras we can possibly put in the community and all the cameras that our police chief and organization wants. We all have to do, just like evacuation and fire safety, we all have to do our part. Lock your doors, lock your windows, don't become a victim of crime of opportunity. But the reality is we are one of the safest communities in the state and almost always get rated that way. So while perception can be a lot, crime is not going up in Orinda.
Thank you. Let's see, Ms. Hoxie.
I agree with Mayor Gee that the statistics show that crime is not going up. However, when the medicine shop is broken into 4 times with these brazen robberies and people's laptops are stolen out of their lap while they're working at them at Starbucks, it's a little surprising in our community. People being held up at gunpoint. I agree that we need to invest in technology. Technology is less expensive than officers on the street and also is a great way for us to analyze what's occurred. It generally doesn't stop crime before it happens. It helps us after the fact, and it helps with our response. The school district, we're also investing in a lot of cameras and trying to reduce crime on the campuses, and safety has been the #1 issue this year starting school. We've had more safety incidents this fall than we've had in any of the prior years. So I understand where the question comes from. I think there's more work to be done as a community. And of course, it comes down to resources. But I think it's very important in Orinda that we all support our police department and the work that is being done to make us all safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Yes, so thank you for that. Unfortunately, I have to disagree. In moving forward for multiple reasons, Orinda has 19,483 people and we're growing. It is imperative revisit the model of our police and put more police force on task. There's a small city, Cloverdale, who's also ranked towards Orinda. They're 45, we're 56, by the way. And this is statistic as well. They have 10, not including their chief, their staff, but 10 police officers all the time because they have kids and they have elderly that stay in that community. BevMo, when I first moved here 6 years ago, BevMo's manager, they're always getting robbed, always. The pizza place, the poor child, that's her only job. This is unnecessary. We do not have enough police to survive. And with Oakland, San Francisco doing their housing plan and cleaning up, Orinda is going to reap the benefits of the BART station and they're going to travel on up, especially with Alamo having home invasions where my partner's mother lives. It's consistent. My van has been robbed in 6 times. 6.
Thank you to all the candidates. I apologize to those in the audience whose questions I did not get to ask. I know we went through a number of them in rapid fashion, and still I had more questions than we were able to answer tonight. If the candidates are amenable to that, you may be able to ask questions afterwards, or you may be able to contact them through their campaign sites. So each candidate will now have a minute and a half closing statement, and we begin in reverse order. So we'll start with Ms. Evans.
Is it me? Thank you. Once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters and to everyone who joined me tonight. In closing, I want to say that being on the Advisory Council on Aging and advocating for Orinda, as a woman of color and LGBTQ, I saw no one that looked like me when I moved to Orinda, and I still opened my heart and my soul to my job, and I stayed dedicated to it. I was supposed to answer to Orinda when the previous mayor and now this mayor, with what's going on in the elderly and what's going on in the community. That has not been done. And with me as a council member, that will change. It is important to join forces with the new mayor, department heads, and along with the council members to grow a very diverse background. Orinda is known for not being diverse. That needs to stop with our kids going to school with other nationalities. They're not seeing that coming home to Orinda, and that really truly bothers me, including with my god kids when they come here. I want them to see diversity, and I want them to be able to know that they're included when they come to this city, and they're wanted just as well as anybody else. I stand in ability to relate to new homeowners. I'm a young Gen X. I can change that. The reality that the young Orindas have to see, the young kids that are going to school, they have to grow up one day and they need to see somebody like me on the council board so they know that they can achieve the same thing. Just because we keep electing the same people doesn't mean you get the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. That can't happen here in Orinda. We do need to change, and it needs to start now.
Ms. Gee, minute and a half.
Again, I'd like to thank everyone tonight. I'd like to thank all of you for being here and for your interest in our government and city. I'd like to say that again, it's been a huge privilege to serve here in Orinda. I'm very proud of the effort I've made and my colleagues, and I am very proud that Orinda is one of the best run cities in the state of California. We have our challenges, we have our issues. Financially, we are probably in the best shape of almost any city that you can find. And I care about that, and I intend to put a lot of focus on maintaining that. We have challenges, yes, but I've worked hard over the years to be knowledgeable, well-informed, and responsive to all of you. I can't think of a single person in this community that I haven't been willing to listen to, spend time with, and I certainly plan to continue that going forward. I see myself as a great resource for the city. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a great deal of change going on in Orinda. All of that is great, but continuity, I think, of leadership also has its benefits for the community. I have been a good collaborator with our other governmental agencies and a good steward of the many positive things we enjoy. I respectfully ask for your vote again this year, and I can promise you my commitment to work in the best interest of the city, a city that I love, have lived in for 35 years, and want to see continue on a very good path.
Thank you, Ms. Hoxie.
Thank you to the League and to the Orinda Association. Thank you to my fellow candidates. And most of all, thank you to coming tonight and sharing with all of us what issues are important to you. I have a proven track record of leadership and dedication to our community. I pride myself on being able to bring people together, to have the difficult conversations, to reach creative solutions that are in the best interests of all Orindans. I understand and care deeply for Orinda. I know why we all moved here, for the schools, and also for the safe community and for the proximity to all the Bay Area has to offer. There's much we can do to improve Orinda, but we need and have a tremendous resource within our own community, the wealth of knowledge and experience of our own citizens. It has been a pleasure during this campaign season to meet and get to know more people in our community. If any of you still have questions that we've not answered tonight, I encourage you to reach out through my website or by email. Ballots will arrive in your mailboxes this week. Vote. And I respectfully ask that you vote for me, Cara Hoxie. Together, we can make a difference.
Thank you. I wanted to thank our co-host, the Orinda Association, for hosting this, co-hosting this forum with the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley. And I want to thank you, the audience, for engaging in the democratic process and your respectful attention and for the thoughtful questions you provided us. As said already, but be sure to vote on or before Tuesday, November 5th. For information about early voting, visit contracost.vote.gov. And for more information about the candidates, propositions, and other local measures, go to vote411.org, which is a League of Women Voters project. And let's give another warm round of applause for the candidates who are running for City Council of Orinda. That's Candace Evans, Cara Hoxie, and Darlene Gee. Thank you.